Look, I'll be honest with you. When they first told me SylvesterStallone was going to trade the bright lights of New York for the dusty plains of Oklahoma to run a mob operation, I figured this whole thing would last about as long as my last attempt at a keto diet. But here we are, already at TulsaKing Season 3. And let me tell you, Dwight the General Manfredi is still kicking ass and ruffling feathers. When I settled in to watch this new season, I wasn't expecting The Godfather or anything. I was expecting a solid, comfortable pair of slippers if those slippers occasionally packed heat and quoted Dante. And that's exactly what I got. This series, and especially this third season, knows exactly what it is and whom it's talking to, which is a rare and beautiful thing in modern television. It's like an old school rock album. The formula is familiar, but the execution is just so darn satisfying you don't even care. The core premise, for those who've been living under a rock, or maybe just a suburban Tulsa cul-de-sac, is that the general, after a quarter-century stint in the federal penitentiary system, is exiled to the most unlikely place on earth for a New York capo, Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's supposed to be quietly building a bridge to nowhere, but instead he builds an entire criminal infrastructure using local misfits and his own brand of charming, outdated menace. This season, that local structure is looking less like a flimsy tent and more like a fortified bunker, which, of course, brings out all the big, hungry bears from the rest of the criminal forest. What immediately jumps out at you is the writing, the screenplay, the whole verbal shebang. It's snappy. It's got that TaylorSheridan rhythm that feels like it was etched on the wall of a prison cafeteria. Hard, funny, and surprisingly poetic. They've nailed the cadence of a guy who thinks he's still in the 1990s and now must grapple with modern life, all while issuing threats that sounds like compliments. Stallone delivers these lines with such effortless charisma, it's criminal. You're genuinely laughing one minute at his fish out of water observations. The man is a walking hyperbolic metaphor for culture shock, and then the next, you are tense because you know the joke is over and someone is about to get a painful life lesson. The plot this time around isn't just treading water, it's building a whole new dam. It escalates the stakes without losing sight of the humor. Dwight isn't just dealing with small-time local goons anymore. He's got two fronts of conflict: the entrenched, legitimate crime lords of the national mafia who see his success as a threat, and a new local power structure in Oklahoma that is finally big enough and smart enough to stand toe-to-toe with a made man. The way the show balances these high-wire acts is the engine that makes this thing roar. If the first two seasons were about him planting the seed, this one is about protecting the damn tree from professional arborists who want to chop it down with axes. Now, some might argue that the central conflict feels a bit like a greatest hit album of mob tropes, and maybe they're right. But when the band is this good, who cares if they play Sweet Home Alabama again? It still slaps. Pacing is another win. The direction is tense, particularly in the initial episodes. It's quick, efficient, and gets straight to the point, much like Dwight himself when he's late for dinner. They understand viewers are hungry for the action and the humor, and they don't dilly-dally. Now, there is a section in the middle where the series tries to spin a couple of extra plates, and that part can feel like the narrative equivalent of hitting rush hour traffic. You're still moving, but you're constantly braking and wondering why you didn't take the scenic route. But thankfully, the story snaps back into focus, barreling toward a climax that feels earned and genuinely high stakes. They manage to keep that tricky tone perfectly balanced. It's like juggling chainsaws and rubber chickens. You know it could go off the rails, but somehow they pull it off. Let's talk technical specs, the stuff that makes your eyes happy and your subwoofer rumble. The cinematography is stunning. This show continues to be a visual celebration of Oklahoma's beautiful, rugged landscape. They use the sun-drenched open space to create an incredible contrast with the dark, gritty world of organized crime. Dwight, in his impeccably tailored suits, stands out against the backdrop like a freshly polished Mercedes in a dusty parking lot. It just looks expensive and cinematic, which is par for the course for this production team. The sound design is equally impressive. Dialogue is always crisp. You don't miss a single witty retort or menacing whisper, and the action sequences hit with the necessary punch without becoming a muddled noise. It's a beautifully shot and mixed series that confirms that we are now living in the golden age of TV production values. And finally, we have the acting. Without Sly, the show would be toast, plain and simple. He is the sun around which all the planet revolve. He gives a masterclass in aging action star charisma, showing the vulnerable, almost fatherly side of a man who could still snap your collarbone if you looked at him wrong. It's his best performance in years, because he's finally allowed to use his natural warmth and humor, which are so often hidden behind a granite jaw and a machine gun. The supporting cast is fantastic too, providing the perfect blend of eccentricity and loyalty that Dwight has cultivated since landing in the Sooner State. They are his new messed up Midwestern family, and their chemistry is the heart of the show. But the real shocker is saved for the end. The final 2 episodes are absolutely elevated by the surprise arrival of one of the biggest, most charismatic actors in Hollywood. A move that not only sets the stage for future drama, but serves as a setup for the newly announced spin-off series TulsaKing. It is a jaw-dropping cameo that makes the entire journey worth it and brilliantly expands the entire universe. So, the big question, is TulsaKing Season 3 worthy? Absolutely. The show is worthy because it understands its assignment. It knows we came here for Stallone, for the humor, for the high-stakes mob drama, and for the fish-out-of-water comedy that never gets old. It delivers on all those promises with confidence, style, and relentless energy. Is it groundbreaking television that will change the face of the medium? No. But not every meal needs to be a Michelin-starred molecular gastronomy. Sometimes you just want a massive, perfectly cooked steak, and that's what this is. It is intensely entertaining, consistently funny, and anchored by a legendary performance that only gets better with age. If you like the idea of an old-school mobster navigating a world that confuses him but never defeats him, then stop thinking about it. Clear your schedule, grab a plate of rigatoni, or maybe a barbecue rack since we're in Oklahoma, and dive in. The General is ready for action, and so should you. You won't regret hitching a ride with this old, wise guy.